All right, hello and welcome in to this week's Toxic Couch Thursday, the first of many, hopefully. I am Colton Heinrich. I am joined by Mr. Alex Blackwood. This is going to go a little bit like your favorite sports talk shows. We hope that we can find some time for you in our day. Alex, over to you.
Well, I'd like to thank you for letting me join Toxic Couch TV for such a wonderful stream, and I'm really excited to do a lot of these shows with you. We got a big slate for us tonight. We're Packers fans and we're Colts fans here. We're going to react to some of our teams. We also got some other headlines across the league. We got weekly awards, so not what you'd see out of the NFL's Instagram posts like AFC and NFC. We're going league. Like yearly awards, but for one particular week. Then Colton drafted us up some power rankings that we can discuss, and then we got game picks for this week after that.
Awesome. All right, so let us get right into it with our reactions from our own personal games this week. I'll start us off just because, holy crap, dude, look at the Packers. Look at the Packers. I mean, everything's humming from Micah Parsons, like just being absolutely disruptive. And then you've got Jordan Love, who's moving up in MVP conversations. It's week 2. It's a little early. And I'm a Packer fan. I've been hurt before. I know the pain of losing in the divisional round or losing anywhere in the playoffs to the Niners, as a matter of fact. But I think it's quite an exciting time to be a Packer fan. I'm not going to lie. So something that I really wanted to touch on was obviously Micah Parsons, number 1 out there, wreaking havoc. Thank you, Jerry Jones. Did you hear the chants on Thursday night?
Yeah, I did hear them.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jerry. Over and over and over again. There is no team in the NFL that I dislike more than the Dallas Cowboys, and the fact that it just happened to be them who have lended to our biggest successes in, the past couple years with that big playoff win, and now with Micah Parsons. It's quite a sight to behold as somebody who hates the Cowboys.
All right, moving on, we got the Colts. They won in week 2 on one of the 305 single-header games. That was against the Denver Broncos. So, the Colts are 2-0. That's the first time that's happened since 2009, the Peyton Manning era. You know how many straight games we won to start the 2009 season? 14. Last time we were 2-0, we ended up 14-0. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but I am saying the Colts, they look pretty solid. I'm hoping that we can contend for the division because it's been 10 years. The last time we won the division was 2014. So, they're 2-0, but here's the thing. I don't know if we fully deserve to be 2-0 because...
I don't know about that.
Now, we did play pretty good. JT had a good amount of yards. More on that later. But we got to talk about the ending.
That was incredible. I did record. We were both down here, and I did record Alex's reaction. And with his permission, after I'll edit it into the YouTube stream, so that you can see.
Yeah, you got my permission. So there may be some naughty words on there.
For YouTube, we're just gonna insert that right here, and then we'll move on from that. But I'm not gonna lie, Alex. I discounted the Colts when I did my before Week 1 predictions. I had the Colts going 0-6. This is not anywhere where I saw a Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson led team to beat.
Yeah, on paper, the Colts, they didn't look the greatest, but everyone kind of discounted the rest of their roster. DeForest Buckner was able to get in and make a whole bunch of plays. Their defensive backs have really stepped it up. Yeah. I know Xavier Howard had a couple of penalties in the Denver game, but other than that, he was pretty good. There was an undrafted rookie, I can't remember his name, but he was getting really good reps in that quarter for an injured Charvarius Ward and Jalen Jones. Charvarius Ward is coming back this week, which I'm super glad about. But this defense has really showed up. Tyler Warren has really showed up.
Oh my goodness, Tyler Warren. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. But wow, holy moly, you're firing on all cylinders. I personally didn't think Steichen had it in him to be that kind of coach, to put this especially this team together. He lost all that offensive line depth. I mean, oh my goodness, like holy moly, dude. I can't. I genuinely. I am in disbelief. And yeah, okay. We can talk about the ending, and we'll get into that. But the losing leverage for the leverage call lost the game for the Broncos. But the argument's to be said that the Colts put themselves in a position to win that game more than once. They put themselves in a position to lose, but especially towards the end of there, I mean, firing on all cylinders. On tape, they look phenomenal.
So here was the big thing that all the fans were super upset about. The Colts, I watched the tape. The Colts did the exact same thing when Lil Lutz attempted a field goal, and it was not called.
Arguably, would you say, though, that the refs are more likely to call those things when the game is on the line? That's the problem. I think that's what people forget, is that flags tend to be thrown when games are on the line. So yeah, we might not like the calls in the moment. When they get thrown, though, towards the end, I would say that sometimes it's better for football. Now, when it's a bad call, we can think back to countless games, especially in the playoffs, where there are bad calls that leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth. The only people who I think were pretty sour about this were Denver Bronco fans, and I think that might be where most of this is coming from.
So regardless, certainly a game to remember. Jonathan Taylor with over 200 yards, the offense doing super well. They still have yet to punt all year.
Yeah, that was remarkable, and we actually will get into that even more when we get into our weekly awards. But right now, we're going to transition away from our teams. We're very excited for the next couple weeks. I've got the Browns and Cowboys circled on my calendar.
Believe me, I got Tennessee circled this week. I hate the Titans.
Oh yeah, this will be fantastic. It's going to be a great week for football. Great week for our teams. We'll see by the end of the week when we check in with you on next Thursday. We'll see really where we feel like we're going to be. But that leads us. We're going to transition over to our top stories of the week, as our graphic goes super slow. All right, so, Alex, let's start us off.
Well, we got to talk about our very, very most important story, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals loss of Joe Burrow.
Yeah, so this is a huge issue. He could be out for 3 months, depending on the surgery. It could be a couple weeks, but as of right now, I think that we're probably looking at a few months, and that's what most of the reports are saying. The question is, are the Bengals going to go out and make a move? They've already offered for Malik Willis, from what I have seen and sources that I have read, and the Packers are actually prepping for that by adding a couple more QBs onto our depth.
I just don't get it. Like, what's so bad about Jake Browning? Mm-hmm. He's actually a really good player, and we saw that last Sunday against Jacksonville. We saw that 2 years ago when Burrow was hurt, too.
Yeah, of course, but we also saw the 2 picks that he threw that were all just garbage picks. They were terrible interceptions. I mean, bad stuff. It was really bad stuff. I think that if you're the Bengals and you want to go to the playoffs this year in a division like the AFC North, I mean, come on, man. You have to get somebody behind center that's not Jake Browning, unfortunately. Jake Browning, great guy who can come in, maybe win you a football game after Burrow's done a lot of the work. We cannot have Jake Browning manning this Bengals offense that has so much talent oozing. However, one spot of issue for the Bengals is their offensive line. At what point is Joe Burrow going to say, I can't handle this anymore?
You know who I've seen so many comparisons to this situation to? And this is going to give me PTSD.
Oh,
it is the situation with Andrew Luck.
And we all know how that ended, too. That's the thing.
Yeah, so if you don't fully remember, our old GM before Ballard, Ryan Grigson, terrible dude, who just constantly neglected O-line and just kept drafting receivers, and those receivers were busts.
Yeah. Yep.
So the reality is, you have to start protecting Burrow now and making offensive line your primary thing.
Yeah, at what point do we call Burrow injury prone, or at what point do we call the Bengals management incompetent for not being able to protect him? I mean, I remember back to the Super Bowl where he played against the Rams, and he was getting obliterated left and right.
Well, it's hard to stop Aaron Donald.
Well, that's true, but it's been a consistent issue, is my point. You know, this is a huge issue. To say the least, the Bengals might have a few issues on their hands. Now we're going to move on to a different story in the AFC for a team that probably just as enough passionate as anybody else. Let's go to the Bills and let's talk about Josh Allen.
That's right. Josh Allen with a broken nose went full J.J. Watt mode, played through it, and was absolutely dominant.
Josh Allen also, I think, realized through this broken nose that he didn't have to put the entire team on his back for them to win a football game this
James
year.
Cook, who we'll get to later,
goodness.
was just absolutely excellent, having a hat trick and everything.
Yeah.
Just dominant performance all around.
Wasn't it phenomenal? James Cook had some really, really great runs, really long yards after contact runs. Wow, I mean, but Josh Allen still bleeding, has Kleenex in his nose to stop both sides from bleeding because it's broken. And he goes back out on the field and leads them to a 40-plus point victory win.
Oh, yeah. And you know who else showed out? The Bills' defense. That defense, even before Fields got hurt, had Justin Fields seeing ghosts.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to our game picks for this evening. I have a couple personal opinions about the Bills' defense. We'll get there. Not right now. All right, on to our next story. Oh, boy. Is it time to talk about the Bears? Oh.
Ooh, you know, Ben Johnson is only 2 games in, and we know him as an offensive mastermind, but which he did put a decent amount of points on this Detroit squad, but you gotta account for defense.
Yep, the chat right now is going insane, saying the Bears suck. The Bears still suck. 52 on they head is something that Mr. Joseph Kuhn has said in our chat. This is something to behold. Bears are in mid-season form by week 2. This is something that us Packer fans live and revel in. Now, Ben Johnson came out today and said to his team through the media, because you know, we all know that the media is not something that is not listened to by the players. Yeah. This was definitely a message for his players. He said, we are not practicing like a championship team. Now, at this point, you say you're the head coach, you control that. But Ben Johnson's clearly trying to build a culture. However, this is year 2 of Caleb Williams. His completion percentage is less this year than it was last year. And it was bad last year. How many weeks are the Bears going to let this go until we see another person under center, another big move? I mean, Ryan Poles went out, and by all means, off-season champions for 3 years in a row. They genuinely have built what should be a great team, but it's not been. The Bears should be studied in history books for how terrible they can be.
I think the majority of the problem still comes from the defensive side, but because you see this offense, you see what players have truly developed. You see the progression out of Rome Odunze. I just picked him up in our fantasy league because he's had 38 points or something last week?
Yeah, and fantasy doesn't say it all, but if you watch the tape, from the few good things that you might be able to pull away from the Bears offense, it is Caleb Williams and his connection with Rome, because that's something that's scary, but when Caleb Williams is outside of the pocket, it looks like a disaster and a train wreck over there in Chicago.
Yeah, it can be difficult, but I truly hope they've got some teams coming ahead that I know they can beat. They're more than capable on paper, especially. I think the main problem is they got to get their defense figured out. Kevin Byard, Tyreek Stevenson, those guys in coverage.
Yeah.
It was a disaster to see. You know who else we got to talk about, though? The man himself, the magical man, Mr. Malik Neighbors, who now leads NFL history in targets per game.
Wow, and he is something, too. If you had a privilege like we did to watch that Cowboys, I can't believe I'm saying this, Cowboys and Giants game, which we all thought would have been a dumpster fire of a game. It was a shootout like no other. Russell Wilson looked like he was ready to win another Super Bowl. However, he does this about once a year. I don't think it'll continue, but we'll get to that. Malik Neighbors targets with clutch catches. Oh my goodness.
And great separation too.
Wow. Phenomenal. I mean, that guy is showing exactly why he is a wide receiver one, why he could possibly go down if he gets the right situation, the right quarterback, and if Daboll can start coaching better for him. If he's going to go down as a great receiver in this league. But as of right now, in year 2, we are seeing, especially with Russ throwing in the ball, he's going to him for every time, it feels like.
Mm-hmm. And what's so crazy is just the targets. You know, it's not that any of the other receivers aren't competent on this team either. It's just the way that Malik Neighbors is supposed to get all these different targets on all these different routes. Granted, Trayvon Diggs did not play particularly well on Sunday by any means.
No.
But it's really hard to against Malik Neighbors, who he was mainly covering in that game.
Yeah, Alex, that's completely right. I would like to transition, though. We've said a lot about Malik Neighbors. Let's transition to an in-division rival for them, and let's talk about that Eagles team. Now, what I would like to touch specifically is the tush-push problem. Now, I hate to say it, the Packers told y'all they saw it coming. Those false starts while the tush-push was happening, both guards were firing early. Now, I think that's probably happening because teams are starting to learn how to defend it. So the Eagles have to keep innovating. But this is a really big problem for the Philadelphia Eagles, whose offense sometimes runs through that. Also, through the first 2 weeks, they've had some really tough offensive games. They're receiving, where is it? It's not there. When is A.J. Brown going to start getting the ball? I mean, that guy's a wide receiver one, proven. A Super Bowl winning wide receiver one, nonetheless.
The offense hasn't exactly been there, as to say, but I don't think it necessarily has to be. You know, this defense has been absolutely dominant, and just the run game all around. When you've got Jalen Hurts and Saquon in the backfield, you don't even need to pass the ball. Like, I know that might make A.J. Brown furious and eventually want to get out of there, but at the end of the day, when you have those two assets, the whole league is cooked at that point.
Yep.
Now, talking about the tush push, you're very right in that the Eagles are trying to create a way to advance the ball down the field in a way that a defense legally cannot defend it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's becoming a real problem. The question is, how long is the NFL going to let this problem go on? I would imagine that this week with the referees, they've probably said, you're going to throw flags on this. I would imagine.
Yeah. You really have to be disciplined and just play the game the right way.
Yeah. All right.
So one more. Actually, I'm sorry. There is one more that we have to talk about. And this one is going to pain me to have to talk about. Especially since I got to play this guy next week. Well, not me, but the Colts. But they got to play this guy next week, and his name is Cam Ward.
Cam Ward and the terrible Titans. There's no better way to put it. Cam Ward looked professional football ready by the time he stepped onto the field. And everybody said that during the draft. He's the most professional ready, and he looks good. But his team around him, man, are we going to see maybe a repeat of the Burrow situation where they're going to build around him and still have some issues?
You know, there's one receiver on this Tennessee team that Cam Ward is going to form a great bond and connection with. Mm-hmm. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. It's like Elich Eomanor.
Yeah, it's one of the tough ones.
It's one of the tough ones to pronounce.
Yep.
I don't know if I want to know how to pronounce his name as a Colts fan, but you guys get my point. This guy is good and gets really good separation.
Yeah, this is definitely a story that we're going to keep our eyes on for the next few weeks to continue to watch Cam Ward. I mean, we get to watch Cam Ward against the Colts this week, and we'll see how that goes. I think the Colts sweep, in my opinion, but we'll find out. All right, with that, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is the awards for the week. Let's get this going over here.
Oh boy.
Hey, there they are.
All right, so we're starting with our MVP of the week, who, as you can see, is Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions. So I had like 3 other quarterbacks in competition for this award. Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson were 2 of them. They just had an outright duel. I think they threw a combined, 8-9 touchdowns for them. One other nominee that I had was Drake May. Drake May was super good, just getting great reads, throwing all over the field. He actually had the second best passer rating in the NFL this week, only behind my selection for MVP, which is Jared Goff. He was 23 for 28 with a good 334 yards and a 5 bomb.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns, 3 of them to Amon-Ra. It was quite the game. Bears fans are going to try to forget.
Speaking of Amon-Ra, let's move right away to our offensive player of the week, who I have as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yep. He caught 9 passes for 11 targets. He had 115 yards, but he had a hat trick as well.
Hat trick, baby. Hats off to you, Amon-Ra. That was pretty incredible of a game that we watched from you this week.
And this is, we've got some competition for offensive player of the week. You know, Jonathan Taylor with over 200 yards from scrimmage, Jamar Chase with 160-something receiving yards.
He was definitely up there.
Malik Neighbors was going to be one of them. For that reception alone, I think he should be nominated.
Absolutely.
And James Cook, who, once again,
incredible.
But at the end of the day, if I had to choose between Amon-Ra St. Brown and James Cook, it would be Amon-Ra with only 11 targets too. That's just way more impressive to do as a wide receiver.
Absolutely. And
he has just been such a great... What's the noun word for contribute? Contribution.
Contribution.
Absolutely. We're going to move on to our defensive player of the week. So I've had multiple linebackers. Actually, all 3 of my nominees this week are linebackers or outside linebackers. My first nominee was Fred Warner. He had a good 11 tackles. He forced and recovered a fumble. He had a tackle for loss, and he had a pass defended. You know, Micah Parsons, like we saw on Thursday Night Football.
It's going to be fantastic.
He had like 5 pressures, and all of them, or almost all of them, ended up in sacks.
Not forgetting about his half sack that he had himself, with a couple tackles tacked on, and he's still only playing about 60% of the snaps.
That's right. But the guy I'm really looking at here, and is he on our screen? No, not right now.
No, he'll get over there.
But it's Roquan Smith with 13 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and he had a 61-yard scoop and score against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Roquan's definitely deserving of it this week. When we sat down and did our pre-production meeting, there were these 3 linebackers that we sat and talked about, and Roquan with his stat line we couldn't ignore it. Though it was against the Browns, could not ignore it, and 61 yards. As much as I didn't want to acknowledge it, definitely impressive for a return of somebody, especially his size, for sure.
Let's move on to the guy that was on our screen, and now it just switched to Roquan, our coach of the week, which, as you probably saw, I nominated Shane Steichen. No bias involved, trust, but the Colts are 2-0 for the first time since 2009. They have yet to punt, and all the haters are saying this is looking like the New Orleans situation last year.
I didn't even think about that. I forgot that the Saints got off to such a good start, and now we're talking about them being one of the worst teams in the league. I do think that if Danny Dimes can continue to be consistent, and you guys have a phenomenal offensive line, Quentin Nelson, I mean, you'll run through that guy throughout the
And the
whole
new
year.
guys totally stepped it up, too.
Yeah, I think Shane, very impressive, totally deserving of this award.
Some other guys I had lined up, one of them was Matt LaFleur. I absolutely did not expect the Packers, especially on defense, to just do what it did. Jaden Daniels was actually my preseason MVP pick. The other guy I had, just for how clutch he was this week, I had Brian Schottenheimer.
Cowboys got to win. It was ugly, it was dirty, and it literally came down to the last second of overtime, which I was hoping it would end in a tie. But Schottenheimer showing that he actually has better clock management than Mike McCarthy. So, well done.
Moving on to our rookies of the week, starting on offense. I only had 2 nominees. The first one I'm going to talk about isn't our winner, but it was Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren was just great, no matter where he was lined up, because they've been using him literally all over the field.
Yep.
And especially when he was out and catching balls for them, in blocking too, he was such a beast on that line as well. But ultimately, I went with Mr. First Ever 100-yard gain with 6 catches for 10 targets. I went with Tedairoa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and honestly, Ted McMillan, we're looking at him to possibly have a big start to his career if Bryce Young and that offensive line can figure it out over there. The Panthers still continue to let's not put it blunt. Let's not shy away. They're bad. They suck a lot.
And I really thought this was going to be the year, especially with Tedairoa McMillan, which he's still a great dude.
Oh yeah. And you know what? It is only week 2, so there's a lot of growth in a lot of places. It's a long season. We've got a long way till February.
It's not too late for this Panthers team, whether it be now or it be long term.
Yeah. There are a lot of our teams that are sitting at 2-0 or 0-2 right now. That doesn't exactly define where their season's going to wind up. Yep.
Moving on to our defensive rookie of the week, I had a couple nominees. My first one that I wanted to nominate was Jacob Parrish, the corner for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming out of the 3rd round from Kansas State. Just an excellent guy in coverage even these past 2 weeks. There have been articles all over, especially from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers themselves, talking about how they're going to continue to utilize this guy. He has been absolutely excellent, especially this past Monday night against Houston. Just flying around, flying all over.
Yep. It looks fantastic, honestly, just thinking about where that Buccaneers defense could be, right? And then
my other nominee
is
Jamari Caldwell, the defensive lineman for the Los Angeles Chargers. He got a lot of reps at nose in the other Monday night game between the Chargers and the Raiders. He ended up getting a sack. As a 3rd round rookie, people don't seem to understand how truly impressive that stuff is. And not only did he get a sack, he was a monster on both the run and the pass, and was just a nightmare for the Raiders O-line that they definitely weren't preparing for.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is just these defensive rookies are continuing to show out, and I can't wait to see by the end of the season who's going to claim the official title of Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and my Defensive Rookie of the Year winner, he would have been the winner last week too. He's my front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year right now. We're going to talk about Jihad Campbell. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. He is the linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. Dude just flies all around the field, making plays, and is the reason why the Eagles defense is still the defense it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles defense definitely, I mean, you saw against Patrick Mahomes in that Kansas City offense, which can be pretty innovative. You saw exactly why the Eagles would take a guy like that.
Yeah. He was by far the best linebacker coming out of the draft. He was supposed to be drafted way higher. The NFL made a big mistake letting the Philadelphia Eagles get that guy.
Yep. All right. So now it's on to our power rankings for the week. All right. As you can see on our beautiful new graphic, I have the Bills sitting at number 1. There's a lot of reasons for that. I have the Packers sitting at 2, Eagles 3, Ravens 4, Lions 5, Chargers 6, Rams 7, and Buccaneers 8. So before this transition's over, there are a few maybe contestable positions up here at the front, but like I said, it is just week 2. Now, we're going to switch over. At number 9, I've got the 49ers. At number 10, I've got the Commanders. Number 11, Chiefs. 12, Colts. I would personally have flipped it, but Alex said no, and he's a Colts fan, so I trust him. And then the Broncos coming in at 13. The Commanders. Oh, no, not Commanders. Sorry. The Bengals coming in at 14. Steelers 15. Oh, and then they transitioned out. All right, well, this is a good time to talk about our bottom teams. The Dolphins come in at the bottom. Panthers follow them at 31, and then Bears at 30. Saints still not looking good at 29. Browns, maybe you'll figure it out, but probably not, at number 28. Titans, look rough. They're going to be at number 27, and then Patriots at 28, and I have the Jets right above them. Oh, not 28, 26. I'm sorry. And then the Jets up at 25. So, let's talk about these as it continues to loop around. Let's talk.
I'm sorry. New England is way too low. I mean, you clearly saw that performance from him last week, and the defense is kind of starting to figure itself out. Tua was previously undefeated in 5-6 games against that Patriot squad.
Let alone, let's take a step back here. They did let the Dolphins, who look terrible, let the Dolphins score 30 plus points. That's rough. That's
not 30, like 27.
Well, it was up there, and it could have been. And I was actually watching the Dolphins film on the way over here to prep for tonight. They looked worse on film than they did on the box score.
Very true.
Tua was one interception away from having a terrible stat line. It was already bad as is. But he had a few picks that were dropped by DBs.
Yeah.
By all means, if the Patriots defense is healthy, I'm 100% on the same page. I think it's a blowout of a game. However, I don't think the Patriots, coming out of a rebuild, have shown enough that they deserve to be above a team like the Jets.
I'm so torn because I think because especially with the injury to Justin Fields, they're going to have to start Tyrod Taylor this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And and with the way they performed against the Bills, I think even with Justin Fields, it was just, there's no saving that team.
Well, let's not forget how that team played in Week 1 against a Steelers defense with T.J. Watt and quite the star-studded back end of that defense as well against Aaron Rodgers. Let's consider that as well. So that did play in. We're not just ranking off of last week. We're ranking off of the previous 2 weeks as a whole. Yep.
So let's look at your top 3, which honestly I think they're completely interchangeable as of right now.
At this point in the season.
Buffalo, Green Bay, Philadelphia. I think the safe option would be still to put Philadelphia up at that top spot. Not because they've shown that they're particularly the best team, but they just keep winning.
They do. They keep winning, but the problems that they're having on offense, they do look like they're not a team that's firing on all cylinders right now. It reminds me actually of the Chiefs a couple seasons ago where they had their struggles, but were managing to win those one-possession games because of how well coached they were. I think that this Eagles team has a lot of adversity coming their way, and they always do. We always, in the middle of the season, we talk, oh, Sirianni's a jerk. Oh, A.J. Brown is this. Oh, Jalen Hurts is a bad teammate. None of that has ever come to fruition. And last year, all those conversations that I was just telling you happened.
Yeah.
From week 1 to week 18. And then guess what happened? They won the gosh darn Super Bowl. So I am not buying into anything Eagles until I've seen it.
One more thing I want to ask you. What has you putting the Chiefs so low? Because I think you're kind of having them a little too harsh because they lost to some really, really good teams.
You're right. They lost to two teams that I have in my top 10, which is, of course that's going to affect the rating. I actually personally would have put the Chiefs lower if you did not contest, and here's why. On film, they look atrocious. Travis Kelce dropping balls left and right. Patrick Mahomes with his incredible dad bod right now just does not look anywhere near as athletic as he did in his first couple to a few seasons. It does look like this Chiefs team has taken a step back, and it looks like NFL defenses have finally figured out Andy Reid's mind and the offense and the style of offense that the Chiefs like to run off schedule. So I do think that the Chiefs probably wind up making the playoffs this year, probably win a playoff game or two, but I don't see this Chiefs team going to another Super Bowl and being in competition to win it. The Chiefs have never lost 3 games straight, but they lost the Super Bowl in embarrassing fashion. And they've lost these last 2 games. The Eagles, not so much in embarrassing fashions. That defense really showed out, I would say. But I'd like to go out on a limb and say I don't think the Chiefs are going to have a 13-14 win season this year. I just don't see it happening.
Another question for you is, you have the Bengals at 14 right now. I'm a little surprised based off the way you were talking about Jake Browning earlier that you didn't have them lower.
Yeah, so I can go into that a little bit. I think that with Jake Browning behind the center, they are still a good enough team to win games. Definitely and certainly better than teams like Steelers, Raiders, Jaguars, Seahawks, who I have below them. I because of how much talent is on that roster. I mean, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and then Trey Hendrickson. Those 3 guys alone can win you football games. It doesn't matter if me and my almost 300-pound, 6-foot self is behind center with a torn labrum. I could win a football game for the Bengals with that much talent.
Well, thank you, Coley, for these power rankings. These are some solid ones, and they actually provided some pretty good discussion. I will definitely have more rants about this behind closed doors when the stream ends.
Mm-hmm.
But now we get into our most important part of the broadcast, the feature presentation, so to speak, which is our Week 3 game picks.
All right.
Starting with tonight's game. Did it start yet? Yes, it did. It is between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. We did not turn on the game yet.
We have not, because we didn't want to have our game picks tainted before we got to them. This is no contest. This is Bills by 10,000 points. This is Bills by this is Bills all night long. Josh Allen, James Cook, and that Bills defense, it's not any questions. Now, I would like to say, I'm somewhat of a gambling man, and I do like to look at the spreads, and I like to look at who's favored to get certain touchdowns, and, maybe sometimes throw a little money that direction. But here's my concern tonight. For this Buffalo Bills team is their run defense. Their run defense is actually currently one of the worst in the entire NFL, which is a huge concern, especially when you're going against a guy like Devon Achane.
You're very right in Bills by whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the run defense has a bounce back week. I don't think the Dolphins have been particularly good on the run. I don't think Devon Achane has exactly lived up to the hype these first 2 weeks. Bills defense should have a bounce back week in that regard, and I'm going to agree with you in terms of Bills by whatever they want.
Yep.
Okay, so we both got the Bills.
Yep, we both got the Bills this week.
All right. With that, we are going to move on to the Fox early window. And we're going to go from most important game of that window according to Fox to least important game.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with what should probably be a primetime game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles.
This is a tough one for me. This is a tough one, especially with how that Eagles offense has performed. I do inevitably think that the Eagles will probably take this game, probably by 3 to 7 points, maybe 1 or 2 even. It will be close, though, and I think that you might see something like you saw last week against the Chiefs, where it's within the 20-point range.
You know, the Rams have surprised me. Over these first 2 weeks, I would have thought there was even the slightest amount of regression in Matthew Stafford or anyone else. That has not been the case.
Yeah, him and Davante Adams definitely have a connection that I've seen before as a Packer fan.
For sure.
It definitely looks like with Puka Nacua and Davante Adams, it does look like their offense is firing on cylinders. With Kyron Williams as well, I mean, it does look like the Rams could be a full team again this year. Maybe give Stafford one last hurrah. I don't disagree with the fact that the Rams could win this game, but to me it comes down to a coin flip, and I think the Eagles.
At the end of the day, it does come down to a coin flip for me as well. I just don't know who that coin flip. But you know, I think I'm going to go with the Rams. You know how the Eagles are, just like at the beginning of the season last year, they kind of coasted just a little bit, but then they continue to still be somewhat good.
Yep.
I think this week they realize, hey, we got to get the passing game involved now, and the Rams take this one.
Yeah. Yep, I 100% could agree with that take, given a few things. We'll see how it goes on Sunday.
The second of the Fox early games is between the New York Jets and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Once again, one that I don't think is a contest. I think that Tampa will take this. I think that Tampa's defense looks phenomenal right now. I don't think that Breece Hall's going to have any room to run. I don't think that Tyrod Taylor, right? Tyrod Taylor?
Tyrod Taylor.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I think Baker's looking good. I think that offense is looking phenomenal.
Quite frankly, I really don't see any chance for the Jets either. The Bucs are hot, and I mean hot, like especially in clutch time.
Oh yeah, and they're still missing Tristan Wirfs as well. As soon as Tristan Wirfs comes back,
boom, it's over.
They'll keep winning games.
Yeah, they're just going to continue and just cruise.
Mm-hmm.
So we both got the Bucs in that one.
Yep.
The third of the Fox early games is between his Green Bay Packers and the Cleveland Browns. And I don't really see it for Cleveland either. You know, the Browns are going to whip out their all-black uniforms just to be humbled real quick.
I don't see this offensive line standing a chance against Micah Parsons. I genuinely... This is a tough one.
And you have to wonder,
put it nicely,
will there be a QB change this week?
That is something that we could consider, but I don't think QB is the issue where they lie. Joe Flacco has proven himself time in and time out to be a good, reliable quarterback. That's not their issue. We all know that that's not their issue. You could not stick Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady behind that center and expect that team to succeed this year.
You're very right in that. You can't. Especially with that receiving corps too. Mm-hmm. The embarrassing drops. It's just
yeah, it's rough stuff out there in Cleveland. So my heart goes out to you this week. Try not to take it personal.
Packers buy whatever they want. The fourth of these is a pretty exciting one. Mm-hmm. Both quarterbacks need a bounce-back week. It's the Las Vegas Raiders and the Washington Commanders.
Commanders at home. They are not going to take the loss to the Packers lightly. I mean, they got absolutely demolished last week in every facet of the game. Max Crosby, there's no way he has an impact as big as somebody like Micah Parsons. I don't think the Raiders have the pieces to do it. Now, Tom Brady is in the booth with a headset on, so he could be calling plays next week. We never know. But I'd like to take a gamble and say Commanders by a significant margin.
I think this will be a lot closer than you think. Geno Smith might not have shown that he was the best last week, but he's still got it, especially against a defense that I can question at times. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. They're two quarterbacks that they just need to bounce back. They both faced ugly losses last week, with the Raiders losing to the Chargers and getting bossed around by a third-round rookie, and the Commanders, Micah Parsons. It was a rough week for both of them, and both of them need a bounce back. The thing is with the Raiders that they have is I think that Pete Carroll will get it done in this one.
I think that Pete Carroll's definitely a factor, but as is with all coaches who are a little bit past their prime, I think that they lose their touch. And I'm not calling Pete Carroll senile. I think that he's a fantastic coach, but I do think that there will be some issues that this Raiders team will figure out. I think that they'll win games. I don't see them going 2-1.
And I don't think they have a ton of problems to begin with. I think they have just kind of a rough schedule to start out. And they have a rough one coming up with the rest of the AFC West.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At the end of the day, I am going to take the safer option, which is the Washington Commanders.
Yep. Yep.
And the final of the Fox early window is the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm. Once again, the Falcons did not look particularly good, especially against a Vikings team that's struggling to find their footing. I really do think that Penix has potential, and we saw their offense, but it's got to run through Bijan. It's got to run through Drake. It's got to run through Kyle, and it's got to run through Michael. They have enough talent to get these games done. But not scoring a touchdown? Come on. This is the NFL. If you're going to go against a team other than the Carolina Panthers or the Minnesota Vikings, you're not going to be able to win games that way. And if you want to keep going and making deep pushes, either in the playoffs or in this season in general, I just don't see that being a winning model for the Atlanta Falcons. They've got a lot of work to do. It's week 2. Michael Penix, by all means, is still just barely a rookie. He's barely a sophomore. So I see the Falcons taking this one, but not in a convincing fashion, especially because it's a divisional game.
I think you're counting out how truly good Atlanta's defense last week was against Minnesota. They had J.J. McCarthy completely seeing ghosts. Falcons management cares so much about the defensive side, and a lot of that is because of Raheem Morris with his defensive experience and being able to develop players. So you can clearly count on his defensive effort to be able to take down this Panthers team. I think Bryce Young would be lucky to get out of there with 6 points on the board.
Yeah, and something that I'll add is the Falcons' defense has done something that I haven't seen many defenses do, and they will use pre-snap motion against young QBs to confuse them. They'll disguise their coverages. They will. It's almost like a windmill how they've got people rotating on that defensive line into the backfield. It's JJ was seeing ghosts because they were creating so much motion he didn't know what to do.
You did mention that.
I did.
When we were talking while we were watching that Sunday night game.
Yeah. And I stand by that opinion. I do believe that does not go better when you're playing more experienced quarterbacks. I'd like to see him try that again versus Baker and see what happens again. That kind of stuff just doesn't fly when you're playing older guys.
At the end of the day, I'm going to take the Falcons, but it's going to be by a lot more than what you said.
Fair enough.
Well, that wraps it up for the Fox early window. We're going to move over to CBS and their single-header window for this week, starting with the battle of the injured QBs, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right. We didn't even mention that J.J. McCarthy is out for 3 weeks with something?
I don't fully remember, but guess who is starting this week? Carson Wentz, baby.
In
the former Colt getting reps.
In the year of our Lord 2025, Carson Wentz is starting a football game. How far we have fallen. No, I'm sorry. And depending on if the Bengals decide to make a trade in the next 2 days to get a new guy out there, this is going to be a match of the stars. For sure. It's going to be Justin Jefferson trying to get catches out there. I do think I'm going to take the Vikings in this one, personally, and here's why. I have a lot more faith in Carson Wentz under center than I do Browning. I genuinely think that the Vikings will get it done this week, especially at home. You can't convince me that that's not going to give them a better edge. And JJ is down there somewhere. Like, throw it to him.
I'm gonna disagree in that how much you're counting out Jake Browning. Like mentioned before, I do think Jake Browning is able to at least connect with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but we haven't seen Carson Wentz with this Vikings team. Now, does that necessarily mean Carson Wentz is going to play bad? No, it does not. But you're talking about this is a new guy brought in to be an emergency backup. He's not going to get a ton of reps with this group. He could say, hey, Justin Jefferson's down there somewhere, but we saw J.J. McCarthy do that same thing in 7 quarters.
Yes, but I think of Carson Wentz very similarly to the way that I think about somebody like Sam Darnold, who went in and won 14 games for that team last season. So, like, let's not put it past Carson Wentz. He is a very similar passer to a guy like Sam Darnold who won games with them last year. He's also going to make better decisions than Jake Browning. You say I'm counting him out. You and I watch the same picks, the same interceptions. That by all means it looked like the Bengals were trying to lose that football game by the way those interceptions were. I just think the Vikings will do a better job with their coverages. I think that the Vikings have a better chance at deceiving Jake Browning than the Bengals do of deceiving Carson Wentz, especially with a reliable target or 2 reliable targets, Addison and Justin Jefferson, and then you've got James Jones in the backfield, who is nowhere near in his prime, but still very, very good.
I'm going to have to disagree, and I say I believe that even though he's playing a much better defense this week, Jake Browning will know these guys better this week and will have a bounce-back week and take down the Minnesota Vikings.
And if that happens, that'll be fantastic, but I just don't see it.
Well, next we got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the New England Patriots.
Steelers. I don't have any other way to put it. Aaron Rodgers, it was not his fault that they lost last week. Not in any facet, not in any capacity. That defense and that special teams got berated in film. They're not going to lose a game where they're making mental mistakes. Not under a coach like Mike Tomlin. They're not going to get outplayed either. Oh my goodness, they will not get outplayed by this Patriots team. So I am Steelers all the way for this game.
I believe that the Steelers have some defensive issues that they really need to fix. You know, you can't have T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, all these other guys, Jalen Ramsey, and you can't be having all those guys on one team and letting Justin Fields drop 30 on you and Sam Darnold.
Well, but you don't get to a position where you are in the NFL being Mike Tomlin and not being able to figure out your defense. Defensive head coach with that long of a tenure in a franchise, that's very rare, especially in today's modern NFL. This is not something that will stick. This is I won't even call it a bounce back. It's just they know better and they'll do better.
You're right in that it won't stick forever, but I think it will for another week with just how red hot Drake May has been.
I was a believer in this Patriots team. I had the Patriots going almost 5-0 to begin. I am no longer a believer in this team. I think that they do not have it. I don't see it. I don't see the Patriots doing well. I think the Patriots, give them a year or two under Vrabel, fantastic. I think they'll just keep going up. But I do not see this team this week in week 3. I don't see it. Now talk to me in week 10. And I'll probably have an opinion that is completely changed. I don't see it happening in week 3, especially against the Steelers team who needs those conference wins.
Well, I do. I think the Patriots are going to shock a lot of people, and that's why I have them winning at home this week.
Okay.
Moving on to a pair of round-robin AFC South games, starting with the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is a tough one for me. Texans haven't exactly looked very good in their first 2 weeks, but they also, missing a lot of key guys, they also played some pretty good competition. So
they played some really, really good defenses.
For the past couple of years, this has been Houston's division, no questions asked. Trevor Lawrence has a lot to prove. He's on a big contract. He's got a lot to prove. If the running game can run that way, that it did over the week, I can't imagine it would be bad. I also don't see this Jaguars team losing football games too much, unless it could be like we saw with the Packers last year, where they just can't close against those better teams. It's a coin toss for me. Houston's not going 0-3 though. I take the Texans.
I'm also going to take the Houston Texans for that exact same reason. I don't believe that DeMeco Ryans will let this team start 0-3. And Houston, they really have Jacksonville's number in Jacksonville all time. I think they've won their last, 5 or 6 matchups in that state of Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, I got the Houston Texans too.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to agree
I think it'll be, and I do think it'll be close. Like
Trevor
will at least play somewhat okay.
Yep.
But in the end, Houston's gonna take this one.
Yeah.
And on the other end of the AFC South, we got the Amazing Boys taking on the Tennessee Titans.
But Colts. I mean, there's no question in my mind. Cam Ward, as good as he looks, that Titans defense is bad.
With Charvarius coming out of concussion protocol and still kind of have that little bit of CTE, there is a world. There is a world where Cam Ward does make some highlight plays. The Colts are definitely the safe pick here, but I would absolutely not be surprised if Cam Ward comes out and shocks the world.
Yeah, I don't see, after the Colts' hot start and Shane Steichen's remarkable coaching the first 2 weeks, I don't see it changing. Now talk to me in week 4 when you play the Rams, and then I've got a loss for you waiting. Not this week.
Well, I know who Shane Steichen is, and I know that he's been inconsistent his whole 2.5 years with Indy, and it's really been stressful to see. But the Colts are just the safer pick in this situation, and that's why I got them as well.
Okay.
The next of those games is between the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers.
I go with the home team here. I think the Chargers, they look good. I think that they've looked good. I believe that this could be their division this year. They definitely look like the most dominant team. And I can't see them going in and beating the Chiefs the way that they did. Obviously in Brazil, a little bit different. I can't see them going in and beating the Chiefs the way that they did and losing to the Broncos at home at SoFi. Now, there is something to be said about the Los Angeles Chargers game at SoFi where they pump in crowd noise and hire fans because there's nobody there. I would totally... If you told me it's going to be all orange in the stadiums on Sunday, I'd believe you. I don't think that changes anything. I think Herbert's used to it at this point.
Yeah, no, and this is the bigs. So fan influence doesn't really have that much of meaning. Not like in college.
Well, talk to people who play at Lambeau, Arrowhead, and even U.S. Bank in Minnesota.
If you can truly pull it off, but not everyone can.
That's right.
In college, everyone can pull it off.
Yeah.
But not in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that unless you're going into Arrowhead, anybody in that division over there in the AFC West is affected by it.
Now back to this specific matchup. The Chargers manhandled the Broncos all last season, and I don't really see that changing, especially since so far Broncos defense has kind of regressed.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on the same page. We might see a Broncos bounce back, and it is a division game. It'll be close, but I still have the Chargers.
The final game of the CBS single header is between the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, before we really go into this analysis, I am very sorry, Seahawks fans. I completely forgot to mention one of my Offensive Player of the Week nominees, and that is Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, he had a great game.
Ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday and was just absolutely great. The Seahawks offense really surprised me.
Yeah.
They had a big bounce back week.
Well, let's talk about surprises. I'm surprised that the Saints have kept up with the teams that they've played against. They kept up with the Niners last week, and they kept up in week 1, too. I'm very impressive. That's why they're not lower on my power rankings, because genuinely impressed. Spencer Rattler's actually looking to get some consistency going here, which is not something I saw. In my preseason predictions, I had the Saints being the worst team in the league, like a lot of people. They are a pleasant surprise. Now, regardless of them being a pleasant surprise, I don't see them getting it done this week, especially in Seattle, one of those places that they have the 12th man, and you don't want to go and play there, especially in an afternoon window like that. I mean, I think this is the Seahawks for sure, but the Saints, surprisingly going to make it close in my opinion.
Absolutely agree with you in a Seahawks dub. You know, Sam Darnold is hot, and I think he's found his footing with this offense, and he's just going to keep it rolling now.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And with that wraps up the CBS single header window. And now we get to the Fox game of the week, which is the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears. Really, Fox? Really, Fox? Oh, we love you, Fox. Burkhardt and Brady on the call.
Oh my gosh, I'm not watching this football game. I'm not gonna lie.
No, me neither.
Unless I'm hate watching it for many reasons. Burkhardt, Brady, Cowboys, Bears. That's all you need to say. And this is the one. It makes me sick to my stomach. This does not. I think Cowboys win, but I'm not making a prediction out of solidarity for how awful this game is. Should have never been scheduled. Packers beating them both.
Look at this guy. So as an AFC fan, this game doesn't affect me clearly as much as it affects you. I have much more internal anger towards like a matchup between the Steelers and Patriots. But here's the thing. Dak Prescott is still at least somewhat proven to be somewhat compatible. Cowboys buy whatever they want.
Yeah.
When you got Byard and Tyreek Stevenson as your defensive backs, you're not going to beat any quarterback.
I agree with everything that you're saying. And Williams in that backfield looks good.
Looks excellent.
Looks good. Now, I will not be picking any of these teams to win a football game because I don't like them. And
you gotta pick one to win.
I'm not. I withhold. I will take it as a loss. Whatever team wins, wow. I will take it as a loss. I will not pick. I think the Cowboys have the edge. I think the Cowboys are going to win. That's not a pick, though. I refuse to pick for this game.
Well, we're in luck because the other Fox late window game is much more entertaining. It's between two 2-0 teams. It's the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers.
The 49ers are going to take it. Here's why. The Cardinals have been extremely disappointing this year. They were kind of my dark horse to go win some games. They've won games, embarrassingly. They're not convincing. They look terrible on film. Kyler Murray looks like he can't see over his offensive line. I'm angry at the Cardinals a little bit. I think the Cardinals lose. I think especially with the 49ers defense. And Brock Purdy's not back, but Mac Jones, holy crap. Let's look at Mac Jones. Wow.
Mac Jones did look good. Granted, this was against the New Orleans Saints.
Well, the New Orleans Saints almost beat the Cardinals in Week 1. So let's not undermine the Saints here.
And especially when you're missing George Kittle and you've got some Cardinals defenders that are doing surprisingly well. This will be much more of a challenge for San Francisco.
Oh, I agree.
Than New Orleans was.
I agree, but I don't think that the Niners are going to lose. They still have Christian McCaffrey, and they have an offensive line that's suitable. They've got a Juszczyk, and their wide receiver core is actually kind of looking a little scary for any of their West opponents out there.
I do believe, just due to the injuries, I do think that they're in for a kind of a shaky start, which is why I'm going to take the Cardinals, and they'll continue to convince try to convince the world that they're contenders when we know they're really not.
They're not. And no matter how
They'll
many
have
games they win, they're not.
Fraudulent 3-0 start.
Yeah, and no matter how many games they win, they will never be a contender this year, whatever.
The Sunday Night Football, this was another dumb scheduling decision. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on the New York Giants.
If Russ can look like he did last week, it's going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs are not starting 0-3. No shot.
You also tell me you're trying to compare Dallas's defense to KC's.
Yeah, KC made Philly look weak. Their defense. So let's not beat around the bush here. It's Kansas City all night, and the Giants might make it look fun and explosive, especially with a guy like Malik Neighbors, who we talked about earlier in the show. This is the Chiefs. Andy Reid will not go 0-3. He won't lose 4 games in a row, let alone.
No. And if you're shutting down the pass game for Jalen Hurts, imagine Russell Wilson trying to pass this week. Sorry, Malik. Yeah, so we both got the Chiefs then.
Yep.
And that leaves us with the Monday night game, which is between the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens.
What a phenomenal football game! I think that you're going to see. I think that you're going to see something like you saw against Josh Allen and the Bills. I think that it'll be an electric game all the way to the end. Baltimore doesn't close those games, though.
Absolutely not.
Baltimore does not close those games.
But you know who plays for 4 quarters? The Detroit Lions, baby.
Yeah. The Ravens not being closers and the Lions being out for vengeance after they they lost to the Packers in Week 1. I have the Lions in this game as maybe an underdog.
I do believe that I'm taking the Lions here. Not because of any sort of vengeance, but just because I think that in the early stages of a season that the Lions would be a better team all around.
Yeah, and I think, so what I'm going to go out on a limb and say, the Ravens have a rookie kicker this year.
Tyler Loop.
He's not Justin Tucker.
Not by any means.
I think that this game does come down to a field goal. I think this game comes down to a field goal. I don't think that you can put it on your rookie kicker's shoulders. And there's a reason that they did decide, despite everything that happened with Justin Tucker, even if it was serious, they wouldn't have moved on from him unless they were confident in Tyler. I still don't think that he's going to make those big time moments, especially against a team like the Lions that tends to be clutch in big game moments.
So at the end of the day, Detroit or Baltimore, I am going to take the Lions here.
Yeah, I think that that's the right choice. Well, that concludes all of our game picks for this week. We've gone through so many things. We have been with you for an hour and 10 minutes at this point.
Oh, geez.
I know, right? It has been quite the fun time. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, to like, subscribe. We're going to do this every single week. If you're on Twitch, drop a follow. Just say hi in the chat here and there. We're going to try to stream on both platforms at some point as soon as our YouTube becomes eligible.
Yep.
So thank you for joining us on A Toxic Couch Thursday. We're going to do this every single week. Next week, we're hoping to get started around 5:30 Central Time, hopefully. Mm-hmm. If not, it'll definitely be 6 o'clock. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for bearing with us for all of our possibly hot takes. And we can't wait to see you again next week when we come back around. Have a great evening and enjoy some Thursday Night Football.